Right, welcome back, and I hope that you finished reading the textbook and know a bit more about what happens to the glucose that is formed in photosynthesis. Alright, so let's talk about it now and summarize it together. So there's a lot of information on that page in your textbook. Okay, but what happens to glucose that is formed in photosynthesis? What happens? I've summarized it into 3 possible fates. Alright, just like choosing your fate. Alright, so the glucose can be either immediately used by the plant, it can be stored for a later time, or it can be transported to other parts of the plant and then used there or stored there. Alright, so there's 3 possible fates. First fate, it is used. Now the primary function of glucose, if you remember, glucose can be used for producing energy through cellular respiration, which takes place inside your mitochondria. Okay, hope you're making those links. Now, glucose can also be used to make other food substances. Firstly, glucose can be used to make proteins. If you combine glucose with something called nitrate, it will make proteins. We can also use glucose to make fats. And that is why glucose can be used to actually make new cells, new protoplasm for the cells. Right, so the plant makes glucose and uses the glucose to produce energy and to make new substances and new cells. Now, the plant doesn't need to use up the glucose immediately, it can store glucose. And the primary way, or the main way that glucose is stored in the plant is as starch, which can be found in the leaves. Right, that's why when the plant photosynthesizes, we can test the leaves for starch. So glucose can be stored as starch. But glucose can also be stored as protein and fat. So what happens is that the glucose that the plant produces is used to make protein and to make fats and is stored in the plant in that way. Alright, so for example, in your seeds, right, like your nuts and stuff, that's actually a storage of fat, right, because nuts contain fats and proteins. So the plant makes the glucose, uses it to make fats, and stores it inside seeds, for example. Finally, glucose can be transported from the leaf to other parts of the plant, and it is usually transported as sucrose. So what happens? Glucose is made. Glucose is used to make sucrose. Alright, if you remember correctly, sucrose is made of glucose and fructose. Alright, so what happens is the plant makes glucose, the plant uses glucose to make sucrose, and then sucrose is transported from the leaf to other parts of the plant through the phloem. Alright, so that's a summary. Glucose can be used, stored, or transported. Alright, we are done for today. Now, it shouldn't have taken you too long. If you have some extra time, first start on the worksheet and finish it up. If you have some extra time, you can use it to also work on limiting factors, to revise what that means, because I think last week's content was a lot heavier. So, use the extra time that you have to revise some of that as well. Alright, see you on Friday.